Good morning, friends. My name is Tina with the Daily Sprout, and today I thought I would go over a little bit of composting. We started our gardening in an apartment on a balcony. I wanted to create a full ecosystem, as full as I could have in an apartment, and so we composted. I had a fish tank specifically for the garden, so I would use the wastewater out of the fish tank. Every time I cleaned it out, I would use that. I'd use it to water my garden. There's a lot of nitrogen in fish droppings, so it really helped keep everything really nice and green. My brother-in-law got really into it one day when he was visiting, and he went out and found some bloodworms. They are composting worms, so they'll just help break down all of that organic matter much quicker, and it'll add that worm matter in there as well. So he went out and found somebody who sells them on the Facebook Marketplace, and so we got a bunch of worms and added those to the system as well. Keeping the worms alive over winter was a concern of mine because I couldn't bring the compost inside and because they're so small, they don't get, like, their core temperature doesn't get quite as hot as, like, say, a giant pile of compost. So basically what I did in the wintertime is I just kind of encased my Rubbermaid containers in foam and fabric just to try to keep it from freezing solid so that the worms didn't freeze along with everything else. So I actually was able to keep them alive for 2 or 3 years before then we had a really bad for a week of like -20, -30, and everything just froze solid. So we lost them, but they for a couple of years there they really helped out, and they were really great. And it's so much fun to see a worm in your compost when you're on the second or third or fourth floor of a balcony. Every food scrap that we could compost, I wanted to compost it, and in order to do that on a balcony, you need to do a bit of research. So I had 2 Rubbermaid bins going as my compost. And so the key to making sure that your compost doesn't smell bad is airflow. There's debate between whether you should mix it up, whether you should turn it, whether you should be spinning it or moving it at all. And from what I can tell is that messing with the compost as it's breaking down might not be the best option. I'm going for a compost pile that is already aerated. It's not just like, yeah, I think the key is, well, airflow, obviously, but to get that airflow, I'm not going to be piling just like food scraps on top of food scraps. You want to mingle in like leaves and straw and grass clippings, something that's a little more airy, that's not going to be so heavy and wet, and that will help keep air flowing through. So that's just my opinion on that, and that's how I'm operating, and it seems to be working pretty good. And it's also, it's not that much work, which is key, because there's so much work to do around the garden and around the yard, and why would I add another thing, especially a physically demanding thing, depending on how big your compost pile is, when you just really don't have to be doing anything like that. So as you can see, they're just your standard Rubbermaid containers. I think I got them from Canadian Tire. And all I've done to these is I just took scissors or a screwdriver or whatever I had on hand, and I just poked a million holes in it. Bottom, top, sides, even on the lid. I just would stack them like this. So they take up very little space, square footage wise, and anything that needed to drain, I had like just a tray or even just like a piece of plastic underneath, so I didn't have anything leaking out, which wasn't usually a problem. On really, really hot, dry periods, I would water it. You want things to be moist in there so that they start breaking down. And then once the top one is full, I just swap them. Put the empty one on top of the full one on the bottom. By the time the top one is full again, usually the bottom one has broken down to a point where I can just swap them again and add more. So this is one of the main books that I've been using for my composting questions. The Humanure Handbook by Joseph Jenkins. Obviously, I'm not doing humanure at the moment, but it does go over all the kinds of composting, not just composting your own waste, which is something that we do plan on giving a try at some point when we actually have our own property. This is just rented property right now, and I don't want to start a poop stack on my landlord's property. And we also live on quite a slope, and we have neighbors at the bottom of the hill, and I don't want any uh, any chance that anything could run down the hill towards their property. So I'm just avoiding that at the moment. But one day when we have our own property, we will give it a try. So on that note, thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you take some of my advice into consideration and get those balcony gardens started. And let me know how it goes. I'm really curious to see what you guys come up with. Thanks so much for joining me today. Until next time.